What do you do when you just don't feel like showing up? To have a business, you have to show up online. And there are some days where you just might not feel like it. There might be some days where you've got things going on in your life and you don't want to show up. And so I thought I would make a podcast episode about that.
Hey, my name is Olivia D'Souza. I'm dedicated to helping multi-passionate entrepreneurs turn their dreams into reality by building a career and a life they love and making a positive impact in the world. I'm a podcast and social media manager, a singer-songwriter, a kids music creator, a fadishta, a wife and a mum. I'm the secret weapon behind many 6- and 7-figure entrepreneurs, helping them shine online and call in the people they are here to serve. And now I'm here to help you. This podcast is here to help you learn and be inspired. You'll learn about podcasting, lead generation, business, and all about the real life stories of people behind the businesses just like you. Think of it as a place to hang out with your like-minded business bestie who gets what it's like. So grab a cuppa and hit subscribe so we can hang out again. This is Magnetic Pod, the podcast.
I am here and I'm ready to be brave. Cannot miss me, I'll stand on every stage. I'm available for my destiny to reach my people.
Now, to be honest, today for me is one of those days. Actually, I'm feeling better now that I've hit record. But it's one of those days where perhaps I wasn't feeling my best, and the idea of showing up and recording a podcast, because it's a commitment I've made, felt like, I don't think I've got anything to offer today. What do I do? And I thought, I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one who feels like this sometimes. And something that's come up recently through contexts that I've had, other podcast interviews, is the whole value of not being perfect. And I think there is value in authenticity, and there's value in showing up when you're not at your best. So you don't want to show up and just have a whinge fest, but having that commitment is like a challenge to yourself to go, okay, what's the positive in that? If you're going to be an entrepreneur, you have to be self-led. That doesn't mean doing it all on your own. We all need support. But being an entrepreneur is a journey of mindset work and self-discovery and showing up for yourself as well as the people online. So my thought today is I just want to share what's worked for me, because I know for myself that when people have shared their stories, that it helps me. In fact, what I'm sharing today and how I'm able to show up today is because of other people's stories. Earlier in the week, I did a podcast interview with Suzanne Kohlberg, so go check out our last podcast and her podcast as well. And she mentioned this, and it really struck a chord with me that she actually commits to doing podcasts every single day. Whew, that's impressive. And it's in the back of my mind that maybe I'll do that. But she found the value in it is that she was able to share from a place of imperfection as well. And I know another one of my clients is Anna Hasty, and she, in her podcast, sometimes shares her wobbles and her fears that come up, and there's value in that. I think we're past the era of perfect Instagram aspirational stories. We need to lift the veil. We need to do it with balance. We don't want to just go, here's my warts and all. Some things are not meant to be online. Some things are personal. But and there's also the saying of, now I'm thinking of Swapna Thomas, who is also, we did podcast interviews on each other's podcasts, and she said, share from your scars, not your wounds. So, you don't have to be an open book. But sharing the realness of you don't have to be perfect. So the way to show up when you're not at your shiny best is to take action, to look at what's stopping you and realizing any thoughts in your head are a perspective that you might be a bit stuck in, but it's not necessarily, it probably isn't the truth if it's something that's keeping you stuck. I think negative thoughts are something that paralyzes us. So fear paralyzes, and what sets us free is action. And there's a shift in energy and perspective, and taking action creates movement. It creates flow. So there's that shift that just opens up a different perspective. One thing I think really helps is talking. And I have been on a podcast interview this morning with Vicky Main. So go follow her podcast, which is the Get Unstuck podcast. And she asked me what scares me. And what came up for me was the idea that I should be perfect in all things podcasting. I share and teach about podcasting, so sometimes I feel like that puts an expectation on me, but really I think it's only from me, that means that I should have everything perfect and never ever have a technical issue. I can actually hear outside at the moment some noise outside the window, so I'm hoping that's not going to creep into the sound. I remember when I first got this, I got a new microphone arm because I've moved house and I found the desktop one just didn't work with this new stand-up desk that I've got, and it didn't end up in the right spot in front of my mouth. And so I got an extendable boom arm, and I was putting it together on the same day as having a podcast interview, and I was like, I'm supposed to know all the things, and I was a little bit nervous of not sorting it out and figuring out how to put it all together in time for the podcast interview. And I'm like, why am I putting that pressure on myself? Why do I think I need to be perfect? And the other thing this morning in the podcast interview, I left my emails open, and I know that that's a thing I teach not to do. I've said when you have a podcast interview, close all the things that go ping, close your emails. The challenge with that is that it can be hard to do because that's the most likely time when you need to be contactable, because your podcast guest or host is trying to let you know if there's technical issues, trying to send you a link. All of those communication things are happening right at that point, and they can be very easy to forget to close those off because you're leaving them open until the last moment. I digress. But I guess my message is to go easy on yourself. The things that we teach are the things that we need to learn ourselves. So if you're having a podcast, it's okay if you're learning the things as well. Perfection is a myth. There is no perfect. If you aim for perfect, that's actually really, really limiting, because it's as though perfect is an end point. And if there's an end point, you can't do better than that. And who says you can't be better than perfect? What if imperfect is perfect? What if every step along the way is perfection? Even though you can keep evolving and keep getting better, that doesn't mean the previous version was wrong or imperfect. It's the beautiful analogy that we can learn from looking at toddlers is that every fall that they do is not something to be berated. It's not a mistake. It is part of the process. So I guess I'm saying be kind to yourself in your ups and your downs, and talk to someone if you need to. Look for the lesson. Look for what you can share that has value from where you are right now. Being perfect and being 100% super bulletproof all of the time isn't relatable for most people, unless maybe you're a narcissist. And even then, that's not true confidence. So cut yourself some slack. Don't expect yourself to be perfect. The other thing is, even if you don't show up, don't let that be an excuse to berate yourself or stop altogether either. I do liken showing up online or podcasting to exercising. Ideally, do it regularly and do it every single time. And yes, consistency is best, and that's if you can hold yourself to that, that is best. But what's even more important is your mental health, your emotional health, your physical health, and what you do most of the time. So if you're wondering how to show up online, what's worked for me in a nutshell is to do it anyway. Treat it again as exercise. You only regret the exercise that you don't do. So put on your runners and go out for a walk at least or something like that. And the same goes for showing up online. Turn on the camera, turn on the microphone, take some action, and you'll feel better for it. That's it for today. See you.
I am here and I'm ready to be brave. Cannot miss me, I'll stand on every stage. I'm available for my destiny to reach my people. Gonna be a star, so if you pass on me.
Hello, it's Livy here. Have you ever wondered about what the key elements are that make a podcast truly stand out? Or maybe you're thinking about starting your own special podcast and feel a bit overwhelmed and don't know where to start. Well, I have something for you. Introducing the ultimate podcast checklist. Da, 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 da. It's a step-by-step guide that covers everything from the initial brainstorming to advanced growth strategies. It's the perfect companion for both new and seasoned podcasters. And the best part, it's absolutely free. Da, 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 da. To grab your copy, simply head to the show notes of this episode and you will find a direct link there, and then away you go. Remember, every podcast started with that initial spark and the right resource, so let the ultimate podcasting checklist be yours.